All right, what's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Welcome into Payoff Pitch, exclusively available on the Action Network's YouTube channel. Brendan Glasheen joined by two of our very best that cover Major League Baseball for the Action Network. Brendan Glasheen with Anthony Dabbundo and Sean Zerillo today. 15-game slate in the majors. We have a slew of afternoon games as well. Not as many as usual when we get these Wednesday or even some Thursday slates when we do this show. But we'll get you set with picks, best bets, and as always, we've got the YouTube chat open and available for your pleasure. So ask any questions you might have in the chat. We'll get to as many as possible. But first, here's a way to get in the chat without having to ask a question. We have a contest for you. If you're watching in the chat, simply choose one player that will homer today. And the first person to correctly pick a dinger will win $50, courtesy of Action Network. Last week, I think it's 2 straight weeks now, we have not had a winner, so someone's due. Only one guess per person, please. Don't spam the chat. We will see you once you put the name in the first time. Let's go to best bets. Again, full slate, 15 games. We'll start with you, Sean Zerillo. What are you looking at today for a best bet?
I like the Arizona Diamondbacks both for the first 5 and the full game in terms of a best bet. We'll stick with the first 5 line at a slightly larger edge, but the price targets first 5 would be minus 145. Full game, you could bet up to minus 130. View Zach Gallen as the better pitcher than Luis Castillo. Bullpen's about the same for me. Arizona's offense about a third of a run game per better in my model. But the biggest difference is defense. And actually, if you watched that game last night, I know Anthony had money on the Reds. The Reds are an absolute wreck defensively. That game ended up being tied up in extra innings on a pair of wild pitches, and they're much worse behind the pitcher than they are behind the plate. They've ranked as a bottom 5 defensive team for the past few years now. They're in that range again this year, 24th, 25th in defensive runs saved, and now it's above average. Arizona was a mess defensively last year, part of the reason they underperformed relative to expectations. They've been good defensively, generally speaking, for a while. Changed some personnel, and this year Christian Walker is the top defensive first baseman in the league, and since they brought Alek Thomas up, he's been one of the best center fielders defensively in the league. He's very smooth moving around out there, catching balls that look like they should be a problem, and he just glides over to them and makes them look like routine fly balls. They were second to last in defensive runs saved or outs above average last year in center field, outs above average, I believe, and then dead last in defensive runs saved in center field. This year, they're top 10 in center field, and Thomas has only played half their games. So they're probably gone from being a top or a bottom 3 defensive team in center to now a top 5 defensive team in center field year over year by improving and adding Thomas to that roster. So big defensive edge for the Diamondbacks here. Love their first 5 line, playing their full game line too.
Okay, I was going to say, I mean, I can see why you'd want to go to the first 5, because if you watched that full game last night, that may have scarred some.
Martin Melanson can't even wear the right hat and get into the game, so I can't really trust him to close out games at the end.
And if you missed it, it was a scoreless game going into the 10th inning. Both teams scored 3 runs in the 10th and the 11th, and then 2 runs for the Reds in the top of the 12th. Crazy game. If
that over had cashed, that would have been the worst beat I've ever seen. I'm pretty sure. If that over 9 had landed on 10 and there was a chance, there was a moment where it looked like it might, that would have been the worst beat I've ever seen in any sporting event ever.
Reds team total was 4.5 too. So that's
Tommy Pham lined into a double play, or else it would have been more runs coming.
Of course, Tommy Pham was involved, fantasy football. Anthony, what do you have for us today for a best bet on this 15-game slate?
Well, they've been good to us in the past. They have not been good to us lately. The Pittsburgh Pirates on the first 5 money line at plus 140. It's Roansy Day. And I know Contreras struggled a little bit with Atlanta last week. He did give up a homer and 3 earned runs. But overall, I think the sample on him has been pretty impressive when you look at his numbers. He's pitched over 20 innings now as a major league starter. He's allowed 5 earned runs. The defense has not helped him out in a couple of those situations. But overall, I've been impressed by what I've seen from Contreras. He's displayed, of course, he has elite stuff. Throws 97 with his fastball, really good wipeout slider. But he also has a pretty developed curveball as well. But I've been more impressed with the command. He's really limited his walks, which was the biggest question mark for him, and as is the case for most young pitchers coming up. He's really done a good job of limiting the walks, and I think it's going to be important today. This Cardinals lineup, I know Sean and I have been going against them a lot lately and losing. I don't understand how they continue to put up the numbers they have. Last season, they were 90 WRC plus against right-handed pitching. This year, they're at 105 A lot of that is BABIP driven. Also, a lot of that is driven by the fact they're 22nd in xWOBA, 25th in barrel rate, and 28th in hard hit rate. So they're not hitting the ball hard, but they're finding a lot of holes, and that's just Cardinals voodoo that has done me in time and time again, and will probably do me in again today. But I think the Pirates are undervalued. And Jack Flaherty's back. I don't know what to expect from Flaherty. I mean, if you look at it, he got hurt last August, September. He was pitching very sparingly down the stretch, and he's back now from this shoulder injury. Seems like he's going to be 100%, but what was he in 2020 and 2021? His X indicators were up in the high fours, hard hit rate, barrel rate, all significantly up from where it was when he was, one of the better pitchers in the National League back in, 2018, 2019. And so I'm just not exactly sure what we're going to get from Flaherty. I have a lot more faith in Roansy here, and so I'm going to take the Pirates in the first 5.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to fading the public. Maybe we won't fade the public. In the Action Network app, we see the public, and again, you want to get one of those pro accounts, definitely worth your investment to see not only where the money is going, but the number of bets, and then also where some of our experts might be leaning for that given game. So we see Dodgers Angels, which came down to the wire last night. If you were on the Dodgers run line, wild stuff. And I hope that umpire is okay, because that's just, I've never seen that before. A barrel of the bat going through the face mask of an umpire. Dodgers, 92% of the bets, 96% of the money in their second game with the LA Angels. The Dodgers bounce back after getting swept by the Giants. Zerillo, what's the angle on playing the Dodgers? Because as expected with the win last night, their money line is now at minus 200. So what's another way to play this?
I'm backing the Dodgers on the first 5 money line here. Don't know how their bullpen's doing after last night. Craig Kimbrell was on the verge of blowing yet another save. He's about as shaky as it gets, but I do like their first 5 line. Aside from his no-hitter, where he only struck out 2 guys, by the way, Reed Detmers has been a little bit shaky. Now, he has a ton of arm talent. I think a breakout will come for him eventually, but he has a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, not getting nearly a strikeout per inning at this point. And the Dodgers are going to have to rely on these guys like Tyler Anderson and Andrew Heaney when he comes back, considering Walker Buehler's out for multiple months now. Clayton Kershaw, you don't know what you're going to get from him the rest of the way. But Anderson has been very solid this year. I've tried to bet against him a number of times. Has not worked out because I don't believe he's lost the game yet. But he's been very solid. But his projections compared to where I have Detmers, I do show value on the Dodgers in the first 5 innings. I actually had a shorter projection value last night. Today, once I adjusted some things, I see even more value on it. So I like it up to about minus 185. You can still get a minus 180 out there. I bet a minus 165 last night. So the market has definitely moved in that direction. But I still think there's a slight projection edge that you could bet into at the current number.
Dabbundo, do you have a play here on Dodgers Angels, or at least a side that you might be leaning?
I would lean toward the over, but I'd want an 8.5 to play it. I'm not sure how Anderson has pulled this off. I guess it's a credit to the Dodgers pitching staff and their performance team that they've gotten a traditionally 4.5, 4.4 kind of pitcher who has an ERA of 3 and X indicators in the 3s this year. That's pretty impressive from him. But again, like Zerillo said, I just wonder how long he's able to keep that up. I'm not quite sure on that front. And you mentioned it with Detmers. I mean, 86 stuff plus, according to Eno, that's well below average for MLB starters. He doesn't really strike guys out, and he tries to, get by with his command, but also his walk rate's been up too. So I have question marks about Detmers, but this Angels offense also does project much better against left-handed pitching. They're one of the better lineups against lefties. No Rendon tonight, it looks like. That doesn't help, but I would lean toward the over, but I would need 8.5.
Yeah, that's something to monitor too. A couple of changes in last night's game. I think it was in that 6th inning that they had to make some defensive changes due to injury. So once again, the Angels, just when you think they're going to get healthy, they continue to be banged up. So
those playoff tickets are dead.
Yeah. What did you have? Playoffs or division?
Plus 150 playoffs, beyond dead. 14 in a row.
I have both playoffs and division. So both very dead. And now the Twins are starting to worry me a little bit too, because all their pitching's getting banged up.
Okay. All right. Moving on to bigger and better thoughts, more positivity here. We actually have a question. And it's good to bring this up now because Brett, we just talked about some first 5 plays. Brett has a question, and please ask questions. We'll get to as many as possible here on Payoff Pitch. Brett says, have you ever bet a first 5 one way, but the other team full game? Sean, you want to start on that one? How to maybe answer that question?
Yeah, so occasionally I will show value on both ends of a game, 2% on one team for first five, 2% on the other side for full game. Typically, it's the favorite first five, slight edge, and then the underdog full game, slight edge. And I basically have to choose pregame between them, which side I want to play. More often than not, I will take the first five favorite. And then if it's tied after 5 innings, if the underdog is down by a run after 5 innings, I'll look to jump in live on the underdog side. So that's how I'll generally play it, because if I project that edge for the underdog for the full game, it means the bullpens are probably closer in my eyes than the market is showing them. So I'll bet that first five favorite and then jump in live, like I said, on the other side in the midst of a game, probably after the first 5 innings.
Anthony, you have some suggestions on this?
This is my favorite baseball team. So I'll give you a hint as to if you think I've done that before. No, I mean, the Phillies, back in like 2019 and 20, I haven't done it in at least a year, but there would be times where you would bet Phillies F5 and then just come back on the other team live money line. Not before the game have I ever done that, but I think definitely, when the Phillies bullpen was down bad and everybody was injured, there were times where you were coming back on teams, especially the Braves seem to always pull off comebacks against the Phillies. So I haven't done it in a long time, but definitely, if there's certain bullpens that are super taxed or super, depleted with injuries, or they just had a ton of innings logged in the last couple of days, and their top guys are out, it's definitely worth looking and kind of examining.
Yeah, and last night's a great example, right? Phillies were up 8-4.
The Phillies, yeah, they won the first 5, 8-4, and then the bullpen gave up 7 runs in 3 innings.
They could have won that first 5 about 12-4, by the way, with all the runners they left on base in the first couple of innings.
Yeah, Rogers is horrible.
Okay, there you go. Hope that helps, Brett. And again, any questions you have, jump in. Let's move on to the Action app again and that pro account. Really good stuff for the player props as we move to player props now. The Action Network app, according to our pro models, Spencer Strider, under 5.5 strikeouts is the best prop on the board. Pro line Strider to only strike out 4.5 guys. That's the highest rated MLB prop on the board. Zerillo, it's a way of asking you, what is your favorite prop for today?
Yeah, we'll get to Strider in a minute when we talk about the Nationals. So my favorite prop has moved quite a bit since I bet it. If you follow me in the Action Network app, hopefully you got the number in at -110 on Alex Faedo, over 3.5 strikeouts. This was an Action Labs projected 10 out of 10 prop at -110, -115. They projected it at 5.2. Thank you, Sean Kerner. I like Faedo quite a bit. I bet on him a bunch. Former first-round pick, had Tommy John, came back. Good numbers in the high minors, projects pretty well, like his stuff. He's been much better in his last 2 starts, 5 and 7 strikeouts, respectively. Granted, the 7 was against the Pirates. And the White Sox are a relatively difficult team to strike out. Top 5 in strikeout rate, 20% roughly against right-handed pitching. That's roughly where projection systems would put Faedo for the rest of the season, around 20%. So if he faces 20 batters, 20% strikeout rate, that gets you to 4 strikeouts. Action Labs has him at 5.2. The juice has climbed, like I said, from -110 all the way up to -175, -200. That would make it an 8 out of 10 rated prop. So not quite as valuable as it was previously. But all of that said, if you still want to risk a half unit on it at -175, -200, take your 3/10 of a unit, take your quarter unit profit that you would get from winning that bet. I would still bet it at the current line, just would not make a more significant investment to try to win the half unit as opposed to just laying the half unit flat and taking the profit that it'll give you.
It's making a lot of sense now why Anthony wore the Phillies jersey today, because he's going to their starting pitcher for tonight.
Yeah, nice and early, actually, the afternoon. 1 o'clock game. Kyle Gibson at home against the Marlins. I'm going with his under strikeouts, 5.5 at -115. If you look at his whiff rates, and Gibson's never really been a guy who strikes out a ton of batters, but the first 4 starts of the season, his swinging strike rate was 20%, 18%, 11%, 15%, 11%. Since then, the last few starts, he's kind of regressed back to where he's always been, which has been a below average swinging strike kind of guy. His last 7 starts are 5.6, 7.2. He had a 13, then he had a 9.5, a 10, and an 11. The league average for reference is about 11.5. So he's been a below average whiff guy the last month or two, and that's resulting in a lot more ground balls, but just fewer strikeouts generally. I do think he can get some double plays as well. Some of the middle of the lineup does not run well for Miami, and so even if I think Gibson will be effective, and I know Sean played the Phillies in the first 5, more of a bet against the Marlins starter, I think you can get a Gibson strikeout-wise and go under here in the first 5 innings, or at least in his start. It should be about
Zerillo,
5 or 6 innings.
Zerillo, going back to Faedo, is over 4.5 at plus 110 a good number? Adam asks.
I would probably prefer it over 4 plus money. I think I'd pass on the 4.5. Like I said, Action Labs has it at 5.2, so they would probably recommend betting the over at the 4.5 at plus money. But personally, I would put him right around 4 strikeouts. That's why I like the over 3.5 at around a coin flip. So 4.5, don't get that push probability on the 4. I'd probably pass.
Okay, very good. Thanks to Paul Smith. Says this is great. I trail Zerillo. I think he meant to say tail. Tail Zerillo pretty faithfully. Maybe they trail you too. They go down your trail. That's what that means. Appreciate you all joining us. Thanks for hanging out in the chat. If you are just tuning in, we have a contest for all of you watching. In the chat, simply choose one player today that hits a home run, and the first person to correctly pick a dinger will win $50 courtesy of Action Network. Only one guess per person, so please do not spam the chat. If you have any questions.
Rhys Hoskins.
Anthony, this is not for you. I know I have to usually remind you.
We make this a weekly gag.
Yes, it's well done.
Austin Meadows? Can I go Austin Meadows?
Dabbundo, just go. What's your case here on Hoskins? Because if you pick
I have no case. He's just red hot, and Hoskins, when he's hot, he's hot. I remember we did the show like 2 months ago, and I said Hoskins, and then he hit a grand slam that day. So Rhys Hoskins going to homer today because he's red hot.
And Paul Goldschmidt's going to homer because he just homers every day of the season and in every game that they play.
Okay. There you go. So these guys have picks, but they are not eligible. But one of you
Moniacs in AAA, Colin Whitchurch.
One of you could steal their pick. And then if you're the first one to put Goldschmidt or Hoskins, it's your pick. So there you go. Again, we're taking questions as well. Feel free to ask. We'll get to as many as possible. And if you have takes, we'll take those too, because those are fun. Let's go to the Atlanta Braves. They've got the longest win streak in baseball this season going right now. 13 in a row. Do we have a best bet on the Braves? And Zerillo, as you brought up, they're playing those Nationals that relates to Strider on the mound today. So what's the angle here?
The Nationals are 18-37 as a dog. If you have bet $100 on them in every game as a dog, they have cost you over $1,000. I've probably lost a lot of money betting on the Nationals this season, and they are straight up awful. They keep bringing up these kids from AA who you go on Fangraphs when you see them as the listed pitcher, and they don't even have projections up for them yet because nobody expected them to hit the big leagues this year. The guy they brought up yesterday, Jackson, whose last name I'm not going to try to pronounce, Evan Lee, who they brought up previously, these guys are awful. But at least with Eric Fede, we have a sample of what he is. He is a back-end number 5 starter. He's not a AA quality pitcher. So we do have a baseline of what the Nationals should be today, provided Juan Soto is in the lineup. I'm going to wait for a plus 170 or better on Washington before I jump in here. I like Strider. I like his stuff, but his command can be a little spotty. He gets in a lot of deep counts. It's why you haven't seen him go very deep in a lot of these games, because he racks up the pitch count, gets into a lot of 3-2 counts, and then gets you to swing and miss at the slider outside of the zone. So I would bet the Nationals today. I just need the price to come up a little bit higher, and I would assume it gets there before game time.
Plus 170 right now over on the DraftKings Sportsbook. So
I will be betting that. Yep.
There you go. So get it now before it moves, according to Zerillo. Anthony, you're
going to go up probably.
What's that?
It'll probably keep going up if I had to guess. The amount of support that you see when teams get on these long winning streaks, they tend to get tons of public action supporting them. People will ride that streak until it ends.
Right. And the opposite for the Angels. Like, all right, just keep fading the Angels, right? I mean, that's but man, they found ways to lose, or they found
the Pirates
ways to
do. Anthony talked about the Pirates. They're on a 9-game losing streak themselves. So yeah, I would expect even that Pirates line that's already moved up about 10 cents from where I bet it, and it may keep going up further.
Anthony, what's your angle for Strider and the Braves taking on the Nats today?
Yeah, trying to get some news on Juan Soto, who did not play yesterday. He's dealing with some kind of nagging injury. Questionable if he's going to be in the lineup today. We probably won't know until 3 o'clock Eastern or so, with a 7 o'clock start tonight. So still uncertain with him. But I think, and I wrote this in my slate breakdown, I broke down in 5 or 6 games. You can find that on the Action Network website and app right now. I wrote Atlanta will actually be facing an MLB pitcher tonight for the first time in 3 days, because they got Erasmo Ramirez and then they got Jackson, I believe it's Tetro, but I could be wrong, last night. And so, Fede, 4.4, 4.35 xERA, 4.55 FIP, 4.48 xFIP. He's kind of what he is. He's a mid-4 level pitcher, and he's not particularly good. But again, the difference between him and, Lee and Tetro and Erasmo is pretty significant. I think the number seems a little bit inflated here. I would lean toward the under. I do love Strider. I wrote about him a few weeks ago. Strider, I know we're worried about the walk rate, but the Nationals will chase a lot. They're pretty high up in chase rate, and they do swing and miss a good amount as well. They're below average in whiff rate. So I think he's going to get some swings and misses tonight. And so I'm going to look toward the under in the first 5. I want 5 with plus money. It's not there now, but it's close. If it gets to 5.5, definitely playing the under in the first 5 innings. Think that the Braves offense will regress a little bit. They're not quite as hot as they've looked in the last week.
A note on Soto, Dave Martinez had a plan to sit him before last night's game. His quote was, he's okay. He's banged up a bit with the knee. I think it was a good day to give him a day off. A lot of games coming up this weekend. He hasn't had a day off yet all year. He started their first 63 games. So perhaps it was just to give him a day. And that's what it sounds like based on the transcript here from Martinez.
Yeah, and another thing with me locking in that money line play, I wanted to see whether Soto is going to be in the lineup, because yesterday I bet the Nationals early, realized he was out, bought out of those bets, and then that line ended up moving 30, 40 cents towards the Braves. About as dramatic as a move as you'll see with one player coming out of the lineup, but he is almost their whole team at this point.
One last reminder,
also reacting to Titro. Just, everybody looked up Fangraphs and was like, who is this guy? Never heard of him.
One last reminder, everybody, get your home run pick in. If you are the first person to correctly guess a player that hits a home run today on this 15-game slate, you will win $50 courtesy of Action Network. One guess per person, and we've got folks behind the scenes documenting your picks, so thanks for getting involved with that. And again, any last-minute questions, hop on in. We'll try to get to them before we wrap. Be sure to download the Action Network app as well to get the rest of these guys' picks. They are very consistent about getting their picks in the app, all of the data and analysis available as well. Before we go, let's go around the diamond. One more pick from each of the guys, just a couple sentences or less, amount of time it takes to turn 2 in the big leagues. What do you got for us, Zerillo?
Pirates money line, first 5 innings in full game. Don't know what we'll get out of Jack Flaherty, not fully stretched out. And Roansy Contreras is the best pitcher that the Pirates have had since Garrett Cole.
Okay. Dabbundo, turn 2.
That's some high praise. Vince Velasquez is the worst pitcher pitching today, maybe. I'd have to look through the rest of the slate. But Velasquez coming back off the injured list for the White Sox. I'm fading him. I'm taking the Tigers and our guy Faedo at -110.
Yeah, I'm on that too. Like that bet.
Okay. Very good. I think that's going to do it. So once again, thanks for getting involved in the home run contest. And most importantly, thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys hanging out. And good luck today. Big slate. Covered a lot of ground there. We will have Payoff Pitch, the podcast, coming to you on Friday. Action Network's go-to MLB betting podcast. So be on the lookout for that for Friday's slate. And we'll be back next week. We'll pick the day, and then we'll get you set for a big day in Major League Baseball. For Anthony Dabbundo, Sean Zerillo, Brendan Glasheen, thanks everyone for tuning in. Good luck with your home run picks and your bets, and we'll catch you next time.